Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Todd Letts. I have the good fortune of serving as the CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade, and you are viewing the Brampton Board of Trade's Business Insights event. Today's event will be unpacking the most recent, the 2022 Business Confidence Index that was distributed and completed by Brampton businesses earlier this fall. As is tradition for the Brampton Board of Trade, we start each meeting with acknowledgement of the land for which we serve and which we gather and work. And this, of course, is part of the treaty lands and the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples have inhabited and cared for this land. And in particular, this is the territory of the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, the Ojibwe, Chippewa peoples, and it's also, we'd like to recognize that this is land that's home to the Métis, and most recently the territory of the Mississaugas of the First Credit, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We're grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, we want to give respect to its first inhabitants. For new-time viewers, the Brampton Board of Trade is a non-profit, independent business organization. It represents businesses through its advocacy. It connects businesses to suppliers and to customers, and it empowers businesses to be the best that they can be, helping them solve the barriers to growth, be it recruitment of people or finding the right plans or processes, innovations to best serve their customers. I am joined today on our Business Confidence Index Insight webinar by three distinguished members of our business community. I am joined by Heather Stratty. She is a partner with Deloitte and past chair of the Brampton Board of Trade. She's also our 2022 Business Person of the Year. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you.
Also joined by Glenn Williams. Glenn Williams is an accountant. He's a past chair of the Brampton Board of Trade. He is a dedicated volunteer on the board's Policy and Government Relations Committee and won the Chairman's Award not too long ago for his dedication to volunteerism with the Brampton Board of Trade. We're also joined today by the incoming chair, the 2023 chair of the Brampton Board of Trade. Welcome to Daniel Lewis. He is the founder of Daniel's Chai. And Daniel, we look forward to working with you in 2023. I see we have a visitor, Heather, as well. We've got a fifth panelist in Snuggles the Kitten. And we're always interested in what Snuggles the Kitten has to say as well.
Rosie Parker.
Oh, this is wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, the Brampton Board of Trade is an association of over 1,900 business owners, representatives that employ over 61,000 here in Brampton. And this survey that we do is the third year that we've done it. It is our Business Confidence Index. And it was commissioned by Narrative Research, an accredited market intelligence and research company. And we've invited over 800 Brampton business members to take part in the survey. The survey is conducted in order to capture the opinions of Brampton businesses on business climate and on issues facing Brampton businesses. As I mentioned, over 130 of those businesses responded. They represent or employ about 37,000 people, the respondents do, and they responded to the survey in the time period between September 8th and October 26th of 2022. And again, we're using these findings to help inform and populate our programs and our advocacy for 2023. I am supported today by Justina and Kevin and Maureen, and we do have some slides that we'd like to highlight. And I'd just like to take a couple minutes, if I could ask Justina. The survey here's a little profile of the businesses that responded. They're mature businesses. Mature, successful businesses are attracted to the Brampton Board of Trade. Their average length of time in business was 25 years. They have business operations in Brampton, 37%, and the equal number have more than one location, ones that are outside Brampton as well. Very good distribution of sectors in terms of 55% manufacturing, 37 from business, 4% from retail, and other industries represent 6%. That could be logistics, food processing, etc. We have a very diverse and vibrant business community here in Brampton. That gives an overview of the profile. Let's get right to the rub of it. Brampton businesses, despite having a very challenging 2020, a very challenging 2021 and 2022, are still relatively optimistic. More than 8 out of 10 of our businesses are confident of their own organization's, enterprise's economic future. And 2/3 remain confident of Brampton's future. Now, both of those numbers are down a little bit, but again, we're coming out of 2.5, 3 years of COVID. COVID's not the only issue. We'll go into what the issues are, be it supply chain, talent shortage as well. But it's great to see that resiliency and that optimism continues. And that, again, is their forecast for the next 12 months. Now, again, the context is that 2/3, or almost 2/3, 65% of respondents have seen reduced profits due to rising inflation. I see there's a little drop in inflation reported this week, but it's still 6.8%, and that is a challenge for staff wages, for goods, etc., and consumers as well. Impacts everybody's decision making. So this year's results point to some key challenges. Respondents told us that talent, transportation, affordability are pain points. There's also a clear message for the new term of Brampton City Council that it needs to improve the confidence in our city. And I look forward to unpacking the details with our leaders. But let me start with a question to our panelists. Heather, I don't know if you want to begin, but how would you judge the confidence of your clients, the mood, profits, etc.? Is the results of this poll consistent with what you're hearing from your customers?
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Definitely an interesting time, no question. As you say, coming out of the last couple of years worth of, I'll say, little chaotic terms of, the pandemic, amongst other things. A lot of folks were coming back into the swing of things, getting back into business, a little bit more normal, let's call it. But then faced with talent shortages across the board, every department in a business was seeing the talent shortage, difficulties hiring and retaining, difficulties in keeping people engaged, the fallout of all the remote work, where you lost some of the learning and training and camaraderie that drives a strong business environment, right? In terms of collective teaming and all that sort of thing. So you see a lot of pressure on wages, again with the talent shortage, companies struggling to meet that demand and kind of price their salaries to meet that demand, which is part of the issue with attracting and retaining. And at the same time, just a lot of fluidity in the talent markets, people looking for different opportunities, different, not just pay, but even just different type of work. Some folks have gone from one career completely to a different career because of the pandemic. It really made them reflect on what they're doing, what they want to do, interest areas. Maybe now's the time to change. So a lot of that fallout is coming into what we're seeing. And of course, workplace of the future, right? What's the hybrid, the new normal, that sort of thing. People are still figuring that out. So a lot of pressure on the profits, certainly from the pricing and the salary side of things, the disruption of the talent changes. It costs money to hire people and get them onboarded and trained. And you have some of the brain drain, of course. Those who have left, you now try to get that knowledge transfer to new. So you have a bit of a dip in productivity, if you will, right? So a bunch of these issues are funneling through, causing some of the concern or somewhat angst around, the forecast, the future, what's it going to bring in terms of 23. At the same time, there's a lot of business going on. Businesses are busy, a lot of good activity happening. And so it's that kind of push-pull between, I have so much opportunity for the business that I have a great forecast in mind, but I'm struggling to keep the workforce kind of engaged and productive and so on. So I think that's why you're seeing some of the high percentages that you had on the previous slide around the confidence, but it is not without effort.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And the impact on profits. So.
Well, thank you so much for connecting the dots for us there. There are more than one ground-shifting phenomenons happening at the same time: the supply chain disruptions, the talent shortage, and the change in the workplace, the nature of work. And you've tied that, and then there's the big rethink that folks are considering retiring or starting new careers, and that all has and I like how you connected that to a productivity dip that we might be seeing, and some uncertainties, perhaps some anxiety looking forward as well. Well, okay, we'll get to the next part of our survey, and with a skill testing question to our panelists. We asked unaided two businesses in Brampton, what are the top 3 issues? All right, I'm going to ask each of you, what do you think's in the top 3? Heather, you mentioned.
I'm definitely going to, yeah, go ahead, Heather. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, I will stick with talent then, since I just talked about that.
Exactly.
No question. I got the easy answer.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Which really hits home for me, but transportation, I'd say.
Yeah.
Transportation, yeah, infrastructure.
Yeah. You have lots of travel between your various businesses and your clients, so you would know that for sure. And Glenn, what do you think's in the top 3?
I think the cost of living. I think that inflation that's here and it's going to be here for a little while longer. I think that's a significant issue for Brampton businesses.
Well, you're exactly right. I shouldn't be surprised that our panelists bring wisdom. That was the top 3 unaided: access to talent, transportation, infrastructure, and cost of living are the top 3. And that's so important for, I think, our elected officials to know, as well as those that are serving business. These are among many different issues. These are the top 3. So let's go a little bit deeper into talent. Heather started us in this conversation. About 85% of respondents indicated that recruiting is a challenge for them. So that's almost 9 out of 10. And 73% indicated that retaining employees, again, for those reasons that you mentioned, Heather, in terms of a big rethink that's going on. All in all, more than 60% of the respondents to the Business Confidence Survey identified both recruiting and retaining as either a challenge or a major challenge. So this is definitely high on the list. Interesting. Some of the more mature businesses, the older their tenure, were more likely to report talent-related challenges, and those who offered reasons indicated that they're struggling most with a competitive labor market, as I said, competition from other businesses, and the inflation that Heather mentioned and Glenn mentioned, increasing wage demands. In terms of talent development, how we're doing as a city, we are so fortunate to have a very strong post-secondary footprint in Algoma University, which has tripled in size in the past year. Great return on investment for Algoma. Sheridan announced this year, 2022, although we're in the final couple of weeks, the new center for community health. And Ryerson continues to grow its cyber secure catalyst. Its venture zone is now in its 3rd year. And of course, we had the announcement of the medical school, which will join us in 2025. When we asked the business community where we should continue to invest, and many businesses invest in these institutions, through co-op, intern placements, projects, etc. And about 2/3, 65%, believe that providing support to the existing 3 post-secondary institutions is the highest priority for Brampton's business. I should mention that there is a 4th institution, Guelph Humber, that is just on the city's border in Etobicoke, and they also provide a lot of liaison with industry. Interesting enough, I know there's been talk about the municipality starting a university, a standalone Brampton U. That idea in the business community has not taken traction. We do have, again, a broad outline footprint of post-secondary, and when asked, we certainly do support the investment that are made in the existing institutions. Now, Daniel, you mentioned transportation as being important as well. So let's go to that slide. And about 46% of respondents agree that Brampton is easily accessible from other regions. We've got the 400 series highway in terms of, we've got the airport in terms of goods movement, the Brampton Intermodal Terminal. Of course, we've got GO service connecting Kitchener to downtown Toronto, with Brampton having 3 strategic stops. So it's easy. Our respondents indicated that their belief, that they agree that at least 46% of them do, that it's easily accessible from other regions. However, as we continue to grow, there continues to be pressure on our infrastructure. StatsCan confirming that we're still attracting well over 10,000, anywhere between 10,000 and 14,000 newcomers to our city each year. Now, immigration was down a little bit during the COVID years. But when we ask the question a different way, when we ask the question about do you agree it's easy to get around within Brampton, you notice that that number drops almost in half. Only 24% agree with that. I just wanted to open it up to the panel again. What are your thoughts with respect to the importance of transportation, obviously identified as important by the business community? Daniel, why don't I start with you? You're on the roads between stores, many locations. Does this resonate with you?
This does, and thank you, Todd. It really hits home for me, and it has for some time. You know, conducting my business in Brampton, and I know I advocated for the LRT system quite a while ago. It's really about understanding the need that is happening. People are coming into Brampton. People want to do business with Brampton. And it's how do we get moving within Brampton? There are many times that it takes me longer to get from one side of Brampton to the other than, for instance, I commute now a lot to Innisfil, which is a 45 minutes, almost 50-minute drive. And it's very comparable to get from, either Sandalwood down to the dairy border with Brampton and to the other side of Brampton to visit suppliers, to do deliveries, and sometimes to have meetings within Brampton. That's the problem. That is the problem because, as we see from the sentiment of the overall, survey, business people are optimistic. They're ready to do business, drive business. It's not that anybody's really discouraged in that sense. We want to believe that, our businesses are going to prosper, but we're going to need those tools that are going to help us to do that. Transportation being one of the big ones. It would be nice, and as you say, going from store to store, if there were ways that I could optimize that process in a way to cut down some time. There's oftentimes I want to meet with people, and for time's sake, I have to take it outside of Brampton because I have to consider traffic. Doing deliveries to the store, it's almost like if I don't get it at this little time slot where it might be easy to get in and out, I've got to hold it off to the next day. These are all challenges. They affect business. And if we're going to be getting more people into Brampton, it's something that we really, really have to address and take a good look at.
Thank you for adding that, and our other panelists may also have points of view, but I thought what was really interesting in your response is that it's the transportation or the ease of getting in and around Brampton is impacting how you're able to serve your customers, whether you want to serve those customers versus a customer outside of the city. And that's really fundamental business development, investment thinking. I've also heard from other CEOs like yourself that if they're trying to grow their business, they'll make job offers to individuals, and a higher than normal response are individuals not taking the job that's being offered to them, not because they don't like the challenge or the people or the company, but because they can't make it fit into their family's life in terms of drop off at daycare and pickup and soccer and hockey at the end of the day. So really, thank you for that response. Heather or Glenn, any other insights with respect to the importance of transportation? I know Daniel mentioned we don't have a lot of choice either. The LRT extension, which I think we'll talk about a little bit more as well, is the proposed rail line from Steeles, the current terminus of the Hazel line, which is coming from Port Credit, will be operational in just a couple of years, starting there and extending all the way to GO station in downtown Brampton. Once that occurs, you'll see a reallocation of buses east-west. I know that we've got some scooter companies, the city's piloting scooter companies as well. We need more choice in Brampton in order to enjoy a better quality of life and serve our customers better. Heather, Glenn, anything more to add? Go ahead, Heather.
Sure. And then, sorry, Glenn, if you wanted to add as well. You know, everything you said resonates, both of you, in terms of this is such an integrated issue. It's hard to attract investment and trade when we can't even circulate within our own city boundaries, right? So how do we deal with that? And the issue is also very large and very small. There's a whole spectrum of fixes, let's call it, that can be done to help things. Small, quick wins like traffic flow studies, you know, right turn lanes, left turn lanes, better timing of street lights, things like that just keeps the movement going and doesn't cause everyone to stop and back up the traffic for some of these kind of low-lying, you know, low-hanging fruit almost, right? Those are almost the easier ones to fix. And then large infrastructure type items, like you've mentioned, the LRT, the BRT, just the connectedness with the larger, you know, kind of projects. You know, how do we get those on the done pile? We would have had the LRT by now if the original version of that project had been pushed through and approved at the time, but the discord in council at that stage nixed that idea, right? And now that's why we're finding ourselves, what is it, 10 years now, 5 years? I forget the timeline, but it's a number of years where we would have been done, dusted, and moving by now, if only we had gotten that done and accomplished. And so part of the issue with this topic today is also for council, the new council, you know, the newly constituted council needs to get on this and get it on the done pile. We need to move forward quickly so that our businesses and our residents can benefit, right? And we get our productivity up there, you know, back to that topic. Yeah. So again, very integrated issue.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, I think what it points is that integrated issue is that although you can do the survey and you look at particular topics and get particular answers, they're all interrelated. It's, you know, why can't you get staff? Well, staff can't get to work. You know, why doesn't somebody want to work in a particular location? Well, maybe it's the reputation of that location, which we'll talk about later. And so we need to understand it's all one big picture, it's all one big pie, and all the pieces have to fit together. Otherwise, it just doesn't work, and we don't achieve our potential that's out there.
Yeah, great point, Glenn. I want to highlight for our viewers that we're highlighting some of the top level of the many topics that were covered in the Business Confidence Index, the many questions that were asked. If you're interested in reviewing the full results, you can find it on the Board of Trade's website. We've put a note in the chat there. It is bramptonbot.com/business-confidence for those that want to look further. Just final point on transit and transportation. There are a lot of priorities. Glenn, you make a very good point. Brampton's a wonderful place to do business, and a lot of people are doing well. There's optimism, etc. But when you factor in that we've got so many people coming to Brampton, it is a challenge for our infrastructure to keep. So there are so many infrastructure projects, and that's not just roads like the Highway 413 or roads within the city. That's not just bus routes and LRT or the GO. It is or Queen BRT that's proposed. It's great that these projects are recognized as being needed, but to Heather's point, it's so important that it advance further, more quickly, and definitively. As Daniel, I know you've given us hints about your 2023 year. It's going to be about progress. It's going to be about focus. It's going to be about not wasting time. Time, a very valuable currency. That's so important, I think, for all of our businesses and employees to enjoy Brampton even more than they are now. I mentioned that you can look at other results from the survey. We did ask the respondents. We put a lot of infrastructure projects, health infrastructure, like a third hospital, and many of the transportation projects together, and asked businesses to rank. Those results are there as well. Our business community still wants to see a third hospital. That's really important. They rank GO service ahead of LRT, which I thought was of interest as well. I think maybe that's because they have seen improvement in GO service recently. They see it as realistic. And to your point, Heather, there's a bit of perhaps skepticism among the business community with respect to decision making at City Hall and whether or not that LRT project will move forward in a timely way. I do know that Council does expect a report with two formats for the LRT extension to be brought to them, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. Glenn, you mentioned reputation, and yeah, we know that Brampton, we love Brampton. We know it's a great place to do business. We've seen Stellantis last year make a multi-billion-dollar investment. We'll be making electric vehicles here in 2025. MDA has made a big investment. But we've also learned that it takes a lot of time to get development approvals. Yes, we might be ranked fourth by the building community in terms of the time it takes to get developments approved, but it's still well over a year, and it's about 30% longer here than it is in our neighboring Milton in Halton region. So there's lots of work that has to be done there. Let's move on to civic leadership. These questions asked businesses their opinion of the four levels of government: municipal, regional, provincial, and federal, as well as 8 departments run by the city of Brampton. And this year's results show the consequences, should I say, of some questionable decision-making emanating from City Hall in 2022. We saw the departure of the CAO and senior staff. We saw the inability of council to make quorum and to meet in 10 meetings between February and October. There have been a variety of integrity commissioner inquiries started, stopped, forensic audits started, stopped. Needless to say, these decisions did not add to the business confidence, the business community's confidence. Also, As part of the confidence index, we asked respondents to rank several city departments, as I mentioned. The departments such as planning, public works, and the CAO's office saw declines in satisfaction that ranged between 12 and 19%. Now, I've met with the new CAO. There has been a turnover in terms of the commissioner of planning as well. Lots of change. There seems to be optimism at City Hall among the executive leadership team and the new councillors. Let's take a look at some of the responses from our business community. And then, Glenn, I'm going to ask you to, and our panelists, what does it all mean? So here's the first stat. Only 1 in 4 believe that our municipal government displays a positive external brand image. That is so important in terms of attracting investment. We're doing a lot of activities, meeting with site selectors, meeting with head offices of companies, exterior, and the image of Brampton needs to be positive and consistently positive. That's significantly down from 2021. Only 1 in 5 of our business respondents, only 1 in 5 believe that the municipal government shares priorities that align with business needs. Again, we know what those business needs are: their ability to attract talent, the ability to get around town and get to jobs, and of course, the affordability of living here in Brampton, daycare, childcare, etc. And again, 1 in 5 have significant trust issues with respect to the municipal government, that number falling quite significantly in the past year. So there was a definite cost, I think, to the reputation of the municipal administration. And it's been noticed not only by the business community. Of course, we saw the province take interest shortly after the election as well. Let's take a look at the last slide there. And I think this is perhaps the most telling. Of the respondents, only 15% are confident in Brampton City Council's ability to make good decisions. So the mayor and council, the new councillors, Councillor Brar, Power, Tour, and Dennis Keenan have inherited a challenge. And I think working together with those that have been reelected, what's our best advice? What do you make of these low scores, Glenn, and on council administration? And what advice do you have for local council?
Well, I think a 15% score is pretty damning. And I don't think there's any other word to use for that. It's pretty bad. It needs to be fixed. So I've got 3 pieces of advice that I'd like to see council take. The first one is we've had these camps of us versus them, and we need to change that. So council needs to not be blaming the other side for the problems. And I think that's really important for those returning councillors, that they put those past differences aside. They look at how they can work together to make Brampton a better place. Because if all we get for the next 4 years is an us versus them, even if there's a majority on one side versus the other, I don't think that moves us forward. So I think we really need to, really take a look at themselves in the mirror, including those returning councillors. What can they do differently so that these issues don't reappear? The second piece of advice I would have is there should be a separation between the council and the staff. The CAO reports to council, all the other staff report to the CAO. And so if there's an inclination there where the councillors think they should be telling staff what to do, what to write in the reports, they need to understand that's not their job. They are to work with the CAO. The CAO works with the staff. That's not to say you don't have communication between the parties, but we should not be having the councillors directing the city departments what to put in reports, what to do. And the third piece of advice, and this is an advice to staff, is I've always believed that the staff's job is to give the best professional advice to the council. And then council gets to make a decision based on that advice and political considerations. But I really want to see that the staff give their advice. Don't hold back. Tell us what we need to hear, even if it's uncomfortable. And that's my concern, is that There's so much tension at City Hall among staff. It's been a revolving door. There's no way they cannot be afraid of their jobs, because honestly, every senior level job is rotated there a couple of times in the last few years. But we need staff to stand up, give their best professional advice, because they're educated people, they're smart, they have experience. They need to give that advice, and council needs to accept that advice and not go after staff because they don't like what they're hearing. And so I think if they can change the culture, that would go a long way. It'll also get to the retaining of staff, because every time a staff person rotates, all of that history, that corporate knowledge walks out the door. And that means poor information in the future, poor decisions, and more costly decisions. And so that's my 3 pieces of advice for the new council.
Thank you, Glenn. That's good. Any of our other panelists want to add to that? Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah. First off, I think that's great, Glenn. I love those 3 points, and I absolutely agree with them. When we look at some of these results, I know I'm big on brand, and that was one of the first slides. When we talk about brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. And when we look at what's in the media over the last year, being business people, we can't ignore these numbers. 15% is a very, very unimpressive number. And what council, our advice would be is we've got to pull these numbers up. And some of those, what Glenn had just mentioned, those 3 points, these are some of the ways that can really improve these numbers, and we have to take heed to those. So we talked about brand, we talked about prioritization and trust. These are big deals when you're running a city, and that's affecting so many people's livelihood, businesses, and things like that. So if the priorities are not aligned, there's got to be a bigger ear to the street of what residents and what business are looking for in their city. And then trust, you just can't get around that. Nobody's going to follow who they don't trust. And we should be taking every step to improve that trust. And it's going to start with, surveys like this, and having these follow-up meetings and really taking some of this advice to make things better. Overall, there's a lot of good that happens in Brampton. And I've been having conversations lately and hearing, some of these things in development. It's great, but we need more of that story told. And that story has to, build trust outside of Brampton and within Brampton as well.
Thank you, Daniel. Heather, anything you'd like to add on this topic?
Oh, you know me, Todd, I actually have a lot to say on this topic, so I'll try to keep it brief. But everything that Glenn and Daniel have said, and in fact, the survey results that you shared, everything resonates with what we've been seeing, hearing, the discussions we've been having across different stakeholders within the city. The council needs to really think about a few key things in my mind. They need to drop the politics, and they need to actually be a team. And why? Because that will benefit the city the most. The infighting has got to stop. Alignment, back in the day, alignment was such a key theme, right? Because we talked about trying to get alignment within the city so we can then drive alignment with the province and with the federal levels. We cannot accomplish things as an island, and each councillor and the mayor would not accomplish anything as an island. They need to team. So drop the politics. Let's get productive and let's find the alignment. What will be the highest and best use of whatever a project might be for the city? How do we focus on, getting things on the done pile like we mentioned? But, it all comes back to those basics that, even Daniel and Glenn were mentioning, building the trust. The stats tell it all, but we see why. It has been chaos the last couple of years with the volume of change. We need stability in the team so that we can then move forward and actually get things accomplished. If we're always focused on the change and the turnover and the infighting, we accomplish nothing, which is exactly what we've seen the last few years. So, I think that's the key themes for me.
Yes. Thank you all for your honest assessment. These numbers can't be ignored. I'm going to ask for the next slide to go up. And Glenn, I'm going to follow the discussion here on solutions. One of your points, Glenn, So yeah, the business community in responding to the Business Confidence Index indicated that improving the image, the brand of the city as the number one, again, unaided advice to City Hall, improve the image of the city, 2, stop the infighting, work together, and 3, lower taxes. Glenn, one of the issues that, one of the bits of advice that you gave is that staff should be unencumbered by political interference in the decisions and the advice that they give. And what I've seen, because that has not been the case, at least that's the perception, we've seen staff hesitant to come up with solutions. We've seen them maybe articulate the problem, but not provide the scenarios, the honest scenarios to council, which is what the business community, what residents pay a city administration to do, is to find solutions. And that needs to change, and it can only occur, as you say, in a culture that supports uncomfortable discussions and maybe some uncomfortable recommendations as well. That's timely advice by all 3 of you, because shortly after the election, we saw, I mentioned the province, we had direct conversations with the province last year about exactly these concerns, and we're really happy to see that the province has stepped in, as they said they would, right to us after the election, in 2 pieces of legislation that have been enacted. The More Homes Built Faster Act, which addresses the affordability of housing, but does have quite an impact on cities. There will be some discounts on development charges. Some development charges were removed in order to increase the supply of housing. And earlier this month, we also saw the Better Municipal Governments, the Better Municipal Governance Act, which addresses, again, precisely concerns of a lot of citizens and the business community. And what that means is that a facilitator will soon be appointed for Peel to review the best delivery of services. We have a 2-tier system here, and well, we've got some slides. Our business community is quite confused by the regional 2-tier governance system. In fact, only about 1 in 5, or 22%, feel well informed about which level of government is responsible for decisions. Is it region appeal government? Is it their local government? There's 2 planning departments. There's no economic development department at the region, but there is at the municipality. And it gets very confusing with respect to who do you call when, and only about a fifth again of respondents feel well informed. Likewise, only 1 in 5 feel well served by regional governance, a 2-tiered structure, and that's down again from 2021. So the province coming in and saying, listen, we're going to review this, is timely. And in our guidance letter, each beginning the term of council, the business community through the Brampton Board of Trade provides a guidance letter to council. In our guidance letter, we have encouraged this council to be open-minded about the consolidations that may need to occur, about new ways to govern. And it may mean that the corporation of the city of Brampton won't be maintained in its current form. Or perhaps at all. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Brampton will always exist, its cultures, its traditions, but because of the performance, what we've seen in the corporation of the city of Brampton, we encourage council, the new councillors, administration to approach the conversations with the facilitator with an open mind. And again, the next slide, if we could please. When we are looking for solutions, respondents to the Business Confidence Index thought that amalgamating into a single tier city appeal was the best way forward. It's really interesting that this survey was done prior to the election, and we've seen such quick response from the province on these issues right away. Glenn, you are a follower of municipal affairs. I think at one time as a young man, you worked in finance at the region. What is your take in terms of the future for governance and any concerns that you might have with respect to the upcoming budgets that we'll see here for the municipality?
Well, I think that there's three alternatives that exist. One, the existing two-tier structure continues with some minor modifications. Two, we go to the single-tier city of Brampton, a single-tier city of Mississauga, and we really don't know what happens to Caledon in that scenario. And the third scenario is we go to the city of Peel. And so, yeah, I've got some experience and I certainly have an opinion as to what I think might be the best long-term solution. But what I'm looking forward to from Brampton Council is that they need to get the facts on the table. So there'll be studies done. They will analyze the alternatives. They'll look at the pros and cons, and it will look at the implications to the Brampton taxpayer, to the Mississauga taxpayer, if either of those three scenarios take place. My advice to council is that if you need assistance in doing that analysis, get that on board now, because if you don't have it to give good advice to yourselves, the results may not be optimal for Brampton taxpayers or Peel taxpayers. And this is extremely complex, especially when you get into the single tier items where you've got assets and liabilities. And those are Region of Peel debt that if those were to be transferred to Brampton, that would be very detrimental to our tax rate, because we still have a lot of growing to do, a lot of infrastructure to be built in Brampton. So it's really important to get the facts on the table. I would hate to see a decision get made without informed councillors, and suddenly we find that our tax rates have to go up by 10 or 20% because of the deal that was struck or forced upon us by the province. So that's my advice. Get the information so you know what you're getting into.
Great. Thanks. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, I think, when we look at these numbers and we look at, where we're at this point in the conversation, especially with the province jumping in, it's one of those scenarios where your family's telling you need help, and they keep telling you need help until your neighbors start saying, hey, you need help. And the more that we continue to delay and get, as Glenn said, this information out there in a clear way, we're just going to be getting ourselves into deeper and deeper and harder conversations about how we move forward. And as I mentioned, one of the things I'm focused on is progress. And, we have to start to bring those uncomfortable conversations to the table, clearly communicate them, and take action. Action has been the missing word for many years in Brampton. And I think we need to act on that, because the neighbors are starting to jump in and say, yeah, you ought to look into this. And when you look at 58% of people saying, that amalgamating is one of the ways forward.
Yeah,
we got to start taking action.
That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy, Daniel. Glenn, you wanted to add?
Well, I think it's also important that governments last for a long period of time. We need to not think about what the taxes will be this year, next year, how we operate in the next, this term of council. These decisions are 30, 40, 50-year decisions. And so we really need to look at the entire Southern Ontario. How should governments be structured across Southern Ontario to make Ontario and Brampton and Peel competitive, strong, growing, prosperous? And if that means a single tier, then that means a single tier. Let's not be parochial and say, hey, we want to keep our city the same because it's been that way since 1974. 1974 is not that long ago. Before 74, there was more municipalities. There is a pattern here. We can kind of see where things are going. Let's make sure we make the best long-term decisions for the residents in Brampton.
I love that. I love that.
Very good. Heather, I know in your term as chair of the Brampton Board of Trade, you had a very specific focus. I think it was about accountability. I think it was about alignment of governments, both provincially, federally, and municipally. And I think you had courage as part of your year as well. And that courage to change, to be open-minded, and to work for what's best. Glenn, you make an excellent point. Our municipality is in competition with other municipalities, and we're not going to win competitions just by speaking louder or banging pots. We have to provide business cases with rationale, with skin in the game in order to advance some of these infrastructure projects. And that's been the advice that we have given to council in our guidance letter. I'm going to ask staff to put that link to the guidance letter in the chat. We are sitting down with mayor and councillors and going through each of the items, the advice from the business community on moving forward on important strategic projects, strategic infrastructure, on the importance of having difficult conversations and being transparent during the budget process, and specifically going forward with the strongest business case for the LRT extension. We're getting close to the top of the hour. Go ahead, Heather. I want if you would like to add.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add in. So everything Daniel and Glenn mentioned totally resonates, and courage does tie into action. Like they need to have the information so that they know what the right answers are, and then they need the courage to take that action and actually move things forward and again get it on the dung pile. But yeah, I'm a big believer in substance. To your point, not just banging pots and making noise and trying to get everyone's attention through noise. We need some hardcore facts, hardcore information and research into what works and doesn't work in the current system versus what could work better in the different scenarios. So again, I come back to substance. How do we support what the right answer is, and then have the courage to actually drive that home and take the action.
Right. Very, very good. Well, let's finish on an optimistic note. If I could ask staff for the next slide, we asked a lot of questions about investment attractiveness, and I think these numbers are quite strong, actually. 43% agree that Brampton is a business-friendly city. I think many, all of us here on the panel would agree to that as well. And 42% agree that Brampton has an innovative economy. And certainly that's been one of the bright lights in the last 4 years or more. We've seen introduction of and the building of an innovative ecosystem with Brampton Venture Zone by Toronto Metropolitan University, Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst, the Altitude Accelerator, Beehive, the Board of Trade, everyone working together, and that is encouraging. So to one of Brampton, to one of Daniel's earlier point, and I think you made this point as well, Heather, there are a lot of business people that are capturing opportunities, and Brampton remains an amazing place to do business. And through that alignment, through that courage, the points you were making there, and accountability, the points you're making, Heather, we can ensure that Brampton is even more attractive for attracting business and jobs. And Daniel, you've really made the point, and Glenn, you have as well, some urgency for that improvement as well. Well, I want to thank each of you for your insights today. As I mentioned to our viewers, you can view the entire Business Confidence Index. We've broken it up for you by topic. You can see that at bramptonbot.com/business-confidence. And we look forward to your feedback. I mentioned the guidance letter. We use this survey, not only this survey, but our annual Prosperity Roundtable. Not only our Prosperity Roundtable, but our monthly policy and government relations. We have lots of points of engagement with our business community where we ask questions, we get real life on the street responses and ideas and solutions, and we encourage you to be a part of that through through any of our meetings and forums. You might ask, when are those meetings happening? Well, we have our bi-weekly hour of challenges and opportunities. We call it ODD, Open Door Discussion, or ODD with Todd. The next one comes up on January 12th. That's over the lunch hour. Please bring in your issues, your opportunities you want to capture, some challenges you're having, and we you'll speak with other business people that are probably wrestling with or have wrestled with similar issues, challenges, and opportunities, and we can share and get some good advice. We like to connect you to the people, the places, the programs, the procedures that can help you grow faster. If you like to do that networking with a drink and a cheese doodle in your hand, our overtime goals, our evening networking event is on January 24th in the new year, 2023. February 7th. February 7th is State of the City. Mayor Brown will give us his forecast for 2023 together with Daniel Lewis, the incoming chair of the Brampton Board of Trade. That is a special event. It's over the lunch hour, February 7th. Get your tickets. You can register right on our website, bramptonbot.com. And of course, that's a wonderful event because we pay tribute to a member of the Peel Regional Police Services as well, with the Peel Regional Police Services Award. March 1st, you'll want to put on your calendar as well, celebration of International Women's Day. We hold Inspire Her, and Inspire Her is also where we provide the awarding of a very special award, the Nassim Somani Memorial Award for Leadership Excellence. And this year it goes to Angela Carter. Angela Carter of Roots Services, a very important member of our community, doing a lot of good in our community, and we really look forward to honoring her at that event. And then April 5th, we've got a brand new event. The regional chair of Peel, Nando Yanika, will join us for his State of the Region, Brampton Board of Trade State of the Region. Again, Daniel will be with Nando, and we'll talk about regional issues. So all of these events you can find on bramptonbot.com. I want to thank Heather Stratty, Glenn Williams, Daniel Lewis for your insights here today, suggestions for improvement. Again, you can view the entire business confidence survey, bramptonbot.com/business-confidence. And please check out events. We'd love to see you. If we don't see you before the holidays, have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you're celebrating. Know that we are in a fortunate part of the world. We get to work with some amazing people, and together we can move Brampton forward. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you again real soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Todd.